Yeah, yeah, I just I'm doing a podcast. I'm testing some various things, and I got the audio file running perfectly. I think. I'm not really sure. Anyways, let's just test this a little bit. Today's podcast, I'm talking about how. Let's do a couple minutes because I'm not really sure if this works. For details, I don't think the arts makes money. I don't think any field makes money, to be honest. But it's easier to sell based on an assumption, right? It's all about sales. Everything's about sales. I don't think capitalism actually works. And I blame the conservatives for this actually, because they promote the idea of like the harder the subject is to learn, the more you pay, which does not reflect reality because people don't buy stuff based on the difficulty level of making a product, right? Right? They buy stuff based on whether it looks attractive or not. And that does not necessarily mean it's easy, right? They buy stuff based on the cover of something. That's the problem with capitalism. People buy stuff based on the color of their skin, right? Not the content of their character. That's always been like that. That's the problem with capitalism, right? And people are rewarding based on the content of the product, right? They're giving compensations all based on the content. So like the reason why math is worth so much is because it's so difficult to learn. It's not because the customer necessarily values the math guy, right? Right? And look, I've dealt with a douchebag public, so do I look like I care? Like they don't appreciate me whatsoever. I told them to fuck off. They don't fuck off. Right? And they don't. They just gaslight me and say, "Well, it's not happening." Right? Right? They deserve it. If they feel like they're out of the job, they're homeless. No, they deserve it. I urge them to punch me so I can kick their ass. Yeah, I don't have faith in humanity. They all waste their time. They waste their time with politics. They think the left and right means something. They think people like Stefan Molyneux means something in this giant sea of information. Right? They think Tim Pool means something. They don't mean anything. They're just little insignificant blobs in the sea we call it humanity, sea of ocean, infinite information. We call it humanity. Yeah, I just don't believe in any of them. They're just stupid. Because they all unless they actually that's if they actually believe the lie. I'll put that in context. I don't think they do. Now, maybe they do. They believe the lie that what they're covering actually means something to the world. Nothing they cover means anything unless they actually talk to the rich people and get them to change their mind on what business they pursue. That's what it's always been about, right? If you can't get the government to change how they operate, you have to go talk to rich people who bribe the government to do stuff for them. You got to talk to people who actually move stuff around. If you don't do that, you're just wasting time. You're just LARPing. You're not doing anything. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. It's such a waste of time. Right? People LARP all the time to HR. You want to be another customer service. You want to be another employee complaint to HR. Go ahead and participate in politics. Might as well just turn America into a total drama. Anyways, I'm just here to build a track record and a portfolio for myself. I'm probably not staying in the arts. I'm just doing this temporarily until I can get some history and credibility as myself, and then once that happens, I leave. I don't even know. This just sounds entertaining for me to do, and honestly, I don't think I have a real route to an education. I just want to put a disclaimer. So And I don't think people here are. So, anyways, so why is the CEO the only real paying job out there? That's because the CEO at the end of the day is the first line of attack, right? So for the customer, like who's going to get blamed when the product goes south, right? It's always the CEO. Everyone else is hired by the CEO. I've talked about this before. And so every other subject, so in the past, a lot of these jobs, how their compensation got created is based on how difficult the subject matter was, right? So the less they compensated them, right, the less likely people would study that subject, and the more of a hassle it is for the CEO to sell the product to the customer. Right? That only works to a certain extent. That was in the past, right? That was back, and what the poor people understood was, okay, you gave me this job, in return you start a business. People were plain about it, right? Be grateful for the rich. That's why people kiss their ass for so long. That's why there's that conservative belief of capitalism. And that worked for a while, but they also lied to the conservatives about it, right? Because there was context they missed. It's like, well, you're supposed to help them out later on. It was supposed to be seed capital. It wasn't supposed to be capital mainly for you to consume. And the conservatives are kind of a joke because they missed that context. People like Tucker just waste your time. So does Bill O'Reilly, because he's like, well, capitalism, right? You just take a higher paying tech job or whatever, but it's like, where's the context, right? The content of the product doesn't necessarily produce value for the customer, because the customer is mainly looking for the cover first, right? The cover art, the advertisement, right? Then that's missing. Just because something looks appealing doesn't mean it's useful to you as a society. That's why it doesn't work. That's why capitalism has issues, right? And it's not just capitalism, right? You think it's just that. It doesn't stop there. So too does socialism. Because people pull resources to things that look good. That doesn't mean they're actually useful in real life, right? We understand this scientifically, right? Scientifically speaking, we should be switching to different systems every 10 to 20 years. Right? Because incentives change all the time, right? A new innovation makes it more profitable to engage in another system. It happens all the time, right? So in the tech world, right, it's not beneficial to switch to a capitalistic model. It should have upgraded, right? But that requires people to personally change, which doesn't happen. Right? Capitalism is supposed to evolve into socialism without any of the holes. That's where we should have went when the service economy started, right? That never happened. So as a result, capitalism actually makes both the rich and the poor poorer. No, that's what ends up happening. I don't know if this works, but I actually don't care. I'm going to get ported by the UFOs. I could care less. This humanity sucks. I could care less about this planet. I can see why Jesus left, by the way. Yeah, I don't even like other people, to be honest. If you're a loser and want to hang out with me, I like you. I like you a lot. Look, here's the thing. So, computer programming, they're paid six figures, right? 100 grand, 200 grand. This is my opinion. That's great. They're paid a lot. But what happens when the company falls under? What happens when their company runs red? Right? Can the programmer save you? Is he able to be convincing? It's like salesman persuasive. He's able to persuade you to buy stuff from you. No, he can't. So now the programmer in that specific economic context is worthless because he's not helping your company. All of a sudden, the salesperson who's underpaid, right, is worth more than the programmer, but he's not compensated adequately, right? Because the marketer has to do more work to get the sales up. And then the programmer keeps bitching to the salesperson about having unrealistic deadline. But the problem is the customer doesn't care about that. You see the problem with capitalism now? Right? They're not adequately compensating the salesperson or the marketer. Because the company's running red, so they have to put more emphasis on sales. The salespeople have to do more work. It's not the programmer that has to change his demand exactly, his output, right? Because he doesn't have to talk to people, right? The thing is, the first front line in business, one of the first steps is you have to talk to people to get anyone to buy your product. And yet somehow he doesn't have to do that, and he's compensating more than the sales team. Is that fair? That's not fair at all. See? That's why people fib on programmers. Now you understand why people like Joshua Fluke get a job. Because he does sales. That's why people hire him. He does sales all the time. Hey, I sent you pizza, right? Isn't that sales? You give them a fruits basket and the customer's thinking of buying your stuff. That's sales. The programmer's not doing that. He's sitting on his ass all day coding programs. That doesn't bring you any R&D marketing sales, right? It doesn't bring you any ROI. Everything Joshua Fluke does is sales, right? Door-to-door sales techniques, right? Poking people on LinkedIn, email marketing. Look, the programmers don't do that. Okay, that would be fine, right? If the company is booming and stuff, and you're hiring for tech jobs, it is essential that you ignore. It's essential that they specialize, right? But when the company is not doing hella well, right, and there's no signs of super fast expansion, right? So we're from the small business phase to the higher tech phase, right? Or the maturity phase of the business, right? When it's in the small startup phase and you're in a fast expansionary period, like kind of like the Big Bang Theory, sure, you hire programmers and you compensate them based on how hard a concept is, right? Or compensate a job based on that. Right? And difficulty, right, is measured by how many people can understand that concept and within a fast iteration. That's how money is gained. It is not compensated based on how many people buy your product. That's fine. Okay, but the context missing is the CEO is the one doing the talking, right? The salespeople are doing the talking. They don't have time to do programming anymore because they used to do that. Right? The sales team hates programming. You know why? Because once they do both, they have to fight with each other, right? Because that's what negotiation is. It's always tense, right? So what ends up happening is they have to start fighting with the customers like, hey, we can't make this product that you want. You need to pay more. Right? Or otherwise shut the fuck up and I'll look for another list of clients. So and they realize, well, I don't want to do that. I'm not making as much money, so I'm going to hire programmers instead to make it more profitable for me. Yeah, and look, the arts is basically a scam. I don't care because people love selling scams and they and people are a scam. Yeah, they just are. It's just a collection. They're just a collection of lies. Look, this is a lie because, look, it is fiction because, well, okay, so Microsoft, right? Where are they right now? Are they at the super high boom tech of startup phase where they expand like crazy? No, they're not. They're in the mature phase. So how much is the programmer worth now? How much is the programmer worth? He's not worth anything now. No, he's not, right? He's worth $0 now. The modern programmers in Microsoft words, it doesn't matter how many coding questions he answered or how many interview questions he answered, right? It doesn't matter what the difficulty level is. Can he sell a pen to the customer, right? Microsoft's not doing that well these days, is it? Aren't they facing antitrust lawsuits? If anything, the lawyers are worth that much. Right? It all depends on what the financials are and what their current problems are, right? Look, the programmer's not worth jack shit now because he's not doing any sales for the product. He's not creating any new APIs. It doesn't matter what you think of Bill Gates. What matters is whether the business keeps functioning or not. Right? Yeah, and that's the thing. The programmer's worth $0. So but we operate in a system where we compensate you based on how difficult a concept is to learn, not on how much business it attracts, right, to a business, right? How much traffic. Okay? And it's the same for the arts. It's just basically how many eyeballs are looking at shit. So when you think of a capitalism which basically organizes around that system, right, you see plenty of artists who don't get compensated. They're putting out really useful content, right? It's the same thing, right? But the cover art may not look as sexy, right? Like, what's part of sexy cover art is the information's easily digestible, short attention span, which means you get rid of content. So you get what you pay for, right? That's the problem with capitalism. So what do people what do conservatives who actually know what the fuck they're talking about say? Which is like 90% of them don't know what the fuck they're talking about say. Right? I'll tell you. I'll tell you what they do. They'll tell you, hey, donate to me, right? Stalin had the right idea. Just donate to me. Because there, you know, the capitalistic model doesn't work. So you donate because people don't judge you by the content. So if you really value my content, donate to me because advertisers are going to go based on the default model of capitalism, which is like, I'm going to buy based on what the cover art is. Because that's what most consumers do. Now, Stefan had a shitty team if he had one. This is the problem I have with people. They just always buy shit based on what feels good, what sounds good, but they never buy on what actually is going to help them in the long run. I ever looked at the? There's no stats on how many people get bankrupt, but I almost guarantee it's like 60% of people who live in the U.S. get bankrupt within the next couple of 10 to 50 years, regardless of if they get a bachelor's degree or not. Right? Then they get trapped by the corporation, which is why you see like these credit scores coming up, right? Because they like people who are lower in debt because they can control them more, and so they can move them up within the company better. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just what it is. You get what you pay for. There is an incentive to be an asshole in this system. There's no incentive to be a nice guy. People just like believing that idea. Right. I'll always be friends with people. I'm not getting anywhere in life. That's why I talk about this stuff. Yeah, and that's the problem I have. And when you see a system like this that refuses to evolve, it causes problems later on in the geopolitics, right? So it's like, well, you got like unemployment, you got all people invent bullshit, right? It's the Chinese that took all these manufacturing tech jobs. It's not the poor that are too lazy for their own good to protect the rich. Oh no, that's the simpler explanation. We're going to ignore that. We're going to instead follow something that makes us feel good. Why do you think all these jobs disappear to China? Because they're cheaper. You know what? How you justify a high? How do you justify a high salary? You provide more value to the CEO. People used to, Red Cross, Red Cross used to be an actual business organization. They just the poor keep shorting the rich all the time. They just get lazier and lazier. They do. I keep telling people. So yeah, the programmer's not worth anything in any of these tech companies today, right? Because they already passed the fast expansion phase. How long did that last? I'd say 10 years. 2000, 2010, right? It's over now. We're in the mature phase of development, right? Arguably. So what does the programmer have to do to justify salary? He has to do sales now. Where's the sales? Is it coming? I don't give a fuck about the arts, by the way. After this, I promise you, I'm not going to talk about this anymore because it is a scam. Yeah, it's what it is. You can't do anything about it. I might go into coding someday. People don't compensate based on anything that provides value to the corporation. I think Jeff changed his mind several times based on what I've been talking about, at least in direct proof. Do I look like I care what people think about me at this point? I'll follow some certain constraints of society, right? Yeah, I'll follow certain constraints of like certain social rules, right? But I'm going to pick and choose which ones that help me and which ones that don't. Because that's the purpose of rules. You get to pick and choose which ones help you and which ones don't. Otherwise, what's the point of following them? Yeah, you want people to respect society. You got to do something to make people respect you, right? That is exactly how things should go. Right? If people want mercy, right? You need to provide a reason for them to give you mercy, right? Yeah, and so Here's what I would say. I there's no programming job's worth anything. If you work for a Silicon Valley company, it's really $0, right? Because the sales guy doesn't know what value you're providing to him. Right? It really should be the marketing team right now that should be worth more than the programmer, right? Yeah, because he's the only one drawing in product sales. And does he care how superior the product is or how cool the sleek design is of anything? Programmers bitch about like really pointless shit, by the way. In the greater context of does the customer care, right? It doesn't matter, right? Remember when Review Tech USA said, here, I'll show you. Right, Review Tech USA talked about something. It was about like you have this next idea, right? About the newest app, right? And it makes you billions of dollars. It doesn't fucking mean anything, right? Right? And none of it means anything. The tech lead? I don't know if I can find it anywhere. Right? I know I saw something about Silicon Valley. So a lot of this stuff, these coding programs, they do mean something. They meant something at it. There was a time when it meant something. Let me see if I can find something. Yeah, I don't really want to be. It's too dangerous. I'd rather get indirect donations from my dad's business. Because people fib too much on purchasing anything these days. Have you noticed how many pointless ads show up that no one buys? They all like, here's how people destroyed themselves. Ad block killed them. People are just dumbasses. They're just like, we don't want to see ads. Now, at first glance, it seems like it's a convenience, right? It helps, but that's assuming you actually put money back to the YouTuber, right? You're actually you're actually going to their house and sending them pallets of cash. That's assuming you do that, right? Hey, let's cut out the middleman. I'm giving you money directly. I actually value what you're doing. That's the only way this works. But then you'd actually compensate ad block, right? See, that's not happening. Ad block is like the death of civilization right there. If you have the right guy who knows how to market it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Ad block, the YouTubers die off because the advertisers aren't making money. So what they do, I can almost guarantee they short you of cash, right? And let's see if I can still talk about this. I'm going to test this podcast later. So, yeah. So right now we have Google, Microsoft, and Facebook, right? Microsoft, Facebook, Apple. All the programmers are technically right now current market price $0, even when they get hired on board. There is no such thing as shorting cash because they're already in the mature phase of development. So to Amazon as well. Right. Google, Microsoft, Apple, Walmart. Look, we can keep the list goes on for the big companies. Walmart, right? This is called a brutally honest conversation. You know, and it's not just that, right? Walmart's, Fred Meyer, right? All these big companies that have big ideas, right? $0. Programmers $0 right now. Anything that's not sales, it's $0. I know there will be disagreements, but what everyone needs to agree on, right? It's not about your personal opinion, it's about whether the customer wants to buy your stuff. That's what it should be based on. $0 for programming, $0 for a lot of things, right? Sales team should get something close to programmer compensation, assuming they actually bring in new sales, right? Or if it's consistent, right? You can debate it. You can have a little debate there. Now, salespeople know how to negotiate salaries, right? They know how to talk. $0, $0, $0. YouTubers can become salespeople, right? With the right training. Right? That's why I'm saying I don't care about the arts anymore. But anyways, I'll keep putting disclaimers after that. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. Let me see, what's the other list? I don't even remember half the companies. Facebook, yeah. Facebook is $0 for programming. Now, if it's a smaller business that you think is expanding, now we can talk about six figures. Right? There's a legitimate promise, right? It's not like a scam startup, like it's a legitimate one. Because the sales team will be too lazy. Oh, not too lazy. They have other priorities is the right term to focus on, right? Division of labor. That's kind of weird. I'm surprised I'm like one of the only few people talking about this right now. Yeah. And they don't really deep learn any of the stuff they learn in school. Yeah, if I don't get compensated, I'm going to go do something else. I think I should keep repeating that because it's funny. There's no fucking business right now. So there's no business coming to Microsoft. There's no business coming to Amazon, right? There's no business coming to Apple that I see. Amazon seems to have a lot of operational issues, right? I don't even know where Jeff is. Is he working for McDonald's right now to take it over? Like, I fucking know. Where the fuck is everybody, right? Is Jassy thinking of starting his own startup business to run away? No one's telling the truth. Right? Everyone plays office politics, right? The office villain is always the one who gets more cash. That's reality, right? Everyone's just jealous of the gold. It doesn't mean anything. The good guy is the one that can get taken advantage of it. None of these terms mean anything. It's just hocus pocus. It's been hocus pocus for a long time. I don't think anything's been legitimate, at least economically speaking, since the days of Abraham. I have seen nothing really legitimate. It's always been kind of a scam. It just got scammier and scammier as time went on, right? As we went through each revolution, in my opinion, agrarian, right? Manufacturing, and now service. Look, I think the right thing to do, for me, since I'm schizophrenic, or whatever the fuck it is the right thing to do for me is you just buy me off, right? Because for all you know, I've seen this stuff. This is my talent. I see the worst in people, right? I've always seen the worst in people. I when I sleep, I can read people's intents, right? Right. That's been my magic for a while. That's why I can come up with this stuff. I've trained myself to be a seer for my entire life because I was cursed to do that, right? That's why I can come up with this shit if anyone asks. And it's related to my mom and dad. They did something weird to get to the U.S. I don't know what it is. I think my mom used magic or something to become a nurse practitioner. Not sure if she wants to use it again. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think they want the magic. Like all magic, it has drawbacks, right? It works only in specific circumstances, right? Certain social situations, and once it fails, right? It backfires entirely, right? That's why no one likes using magic. Tech doesn't have unexpected drawbacks, and the thing about magic no one likes is it has drawbacks. No one, and you're not able to tell what it is. You can't quantify it. That's why no one wants to use it anymore. Right? So Epstein used magic, right? There are drawbacks to using magic. He got killed. You can't account for it. That's why no one wants to use magic anymore. Yeah, magic sucks. Trying to base everything on magic really is a disaster. Why do you think Stephen King wants to write shittier novels? He's like, oh, fuck that, right? This is the easiest way to summarize what I've been talking about before. Yeah, it's true. So you can't quantify the consequences of magic. And yet you still have to use it, right? Because you see the benefits. So you have to account for the potential drawbacks. Now, you can get a tutor, like you can get God Almighty, or you can get some other deity to watch over you. But the thing about relying on a parasite, essentially, is that you don't know what the parasite's motives are, right? Like I talked about this before. So anyways, right now, Walmart, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, not worth anything. Programming, not worth anything. Historian, not worth jack shit. Right? So what do you want? How do you compensate these people? Talk to your parents, talk to their family, right? They want to apply, have a conversation, and say, hey, let's have some emergency funds. Right? How about I compensate you? I want you to do programming, but I don't want to give you money straight away. Let's look at your bank account. This is the right way to proceed. Talk to US Bank, talk to JP Morgan. I don't know what the other banks are these days. Wells Fargo. And see how much, right? I have 50 grand in my bank account, for example, right? Say if it gets to zero, I want you to do programming for free for my company. I'm gonna allow you to move up. You get a stipend, right? This is how this ASVAG game works. Why don't you advertise for some other companies in the meanwhile, right? With your programming apps. We start there. Let's be friends, right? Give me some social capital first, so I can use it to get some monetary capital later. Well, this is how it works. Job requirements don't mean jack shit, trust me. Not in today's age. They used to mean something. They only mean something when you feel like the business is going to go through a burst, right? A burst of monetary capital. Actually, by the way, I don't know if coding is actually a scam or not. Let me know. Right? So here's the thing. So if the smaller business has a high expansion rate, like, oh hey, let's go from 0 to 100, then you hire programmers. It's only for those short bursts. It's not dependent on, there's a tech boom that lasts 2 decades. That's never been real. That's just a lot of CEOs that's the result of CEOs who just relax and buy prostitutes that give them blowjobs, and then they kind of forget what made their system work in the first place. It's just the product of people who are really smart, who do things and don't know why it works, and just, it works, right? That's kind of what running a business is like. And they're just good at talking to people, right? They learn their skills. They got genes that allow them to learn stuff fast. I can't do that, right? That's why I'm doing a lot of podcasting in the meanwhile. Opting out of the money game, actually. I find people really annoying these days. I actually did not used to find them annoying. I used to believe in the illusion they were competent in whatever the hell they were doing. Nowadays, I'm thinking to myself, well, not really. They're just smart in one aspect, one discipline, but they're just retarded in the other areas. The job of the average mediocre person like me, or the guy who's completely dumb, is to find which areas they're completely retarded in. When you see a really smart person, just look at which area in life where they're super retarded in and they just offer the service. And then that's their weakness, because they never fix it. Because we live in the entropy of the universe, they'll never fix that weakness. It just gets worse. That's how you defeat a high IQ person. You find out which type of IQ they're low IQ in, and then you just smash them. And you just find their weaknesses. Yeah, it's just one of those reasons why I don't. So this is one of the reasons why Donald lost the 2020 election, because he's weak, because he's not an actual populist, and he doesn't actually play any risky games, right? He's not doing any risky marketing. He is, and honestly, he never started the election being a genuine politician, right? No one does, right? You see how little he spent? He made the entire 2016 election a marketing stunt. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the entire point of Donald's stunt. Did he win? Yes. And he spent little. And he made a lot of money in terms of selling his MAGA hats. He made a fuck ton of money doing that, right? Now here's how I would have spent my campaign if I actually cared about running as a politician. I would have made a deal with Silicon Valley the first time I ran in 2016. Right? I'd actually pick a sponsor and I'd present a legitimate case for how they can actually fix politics. Pick a couple sponsors, right? He's not doing anything. You notice? He's just playing to the tribal lines. I don't see him doing jack shit. Did I care? No. It sounded entertaining. I'm looking at the market right now. It was shit. Obama sucked, right? Bush sucked. They don't even know how to use any of their corporate sponsors, right? They're not playing favorites in the office, right? Like a politician should be playing. And they're not offering them anything. You know what they're doing? They just want to play it safe. Donald had an easy market, dude. All he had to do was put in some adjectives, look in a thesaurus dictionary, look for some inflammatory words, and there you go. No, he had no competition whatsoever. Who bothers? All he's demonstrating is how low the quality of the politician has been since the days of Edgar Hoover. That's all he's showing. He hasn't demonstrated anything that I've seen. And it's true. People, and it's the same when you buy any company product. It just gets worse and worse. Politics is the same, can be compared to a company product. It just deteriorates as the business, which is the U.S. government, collapses, right? The product gets worse, worse, and worse as the decades go on. It's like any other business, right? Amazon's goods, right? They used to be cheap as fuck. Now they're getting worse and worse and worse. Politics can be compared to a large multinational corporation. You know they get worse. You know the customer service complaints get worse. You know the work culture gets way worse, right? It never stops. Oh, it's always been worse. It never stops. It never ends. And that's that. And if you want to see how politics get better, look at if the customer look at the HR complaints. The moment HR complaints start getting eliminated from Silicon Valley is the moment I believe politics can actually change, right? Because then people will have emotionally matured for once and can actually offer the rich something that they care about. Because the moment you can offer the rich a better product, don't they pay more? And then they can actually make deals and you can get past the U.S. government, right? And then the lobbyists will stop bribing the politicians because the public's their friend, right? They can offer business models that they can believe in, right? And then suddenly you actually can run roughshod over the House and the Senate without elections. People don't care. And with the way society communicates, which I think is incredibly toxic, it's not going to change anytime soon. That doesn't mean you can't solve stuff. It just becomes dicier and dicier as time goes on. So sales is the only thing that makes money right now. We're looking at 6 figures. If you're a top seller, of course. They're the only ones that really deserve any real compensation. Now, at the risk of me losing my job, I'm not going to care anymore. No. I'm just telling you, I mean, we live in a pretty nasty world now. So should the managers get compensated? Should anyone get compensated? Like including me? I don't know. What value am I delivering to the company? It all depends on how the company's financial health is, right? That's the risk of what happens when you work for someone else's company. Everything's determined by sales. People forget about that because it's risky to switch business models. It always is. Everyone in the office glares at you. You step outside the workplace and people tail you, right? They send you threatening malware. They all do all sorts of dumb shit you're not allowed to talk about because you need to be diplomatic and mature. Now I'm outside the system. I'm going to go criticize you guys openly. If you're doing that, I'm calling you out right now. There's a lot of people that do that, by the way. I'll tell you to grow the fuck up. Be thankful for the fact they are actually presenting you an alternative business model that may or may not work. Because no one else is doing anything else important. Right? People just need to grow up. I'm seeing more bitter fights in the streets. That's fine. Maybe it's the current melees of politics. I don't care. Because, look, at the end of the day, you ever wonder why people hate each other? It's because they're always trying to short each other out. That's what happened back then. That's why you see these death duels, because a lot of people remembered people didn't hide. There were no illusions about what human nature really was, right? It's always been how people can take advantage of each other because everyone's judging a product by the cover. Right? People are always trying to scam you by giving you an appearance, but not the actual content of the product. That's what happened back then. People all understood the edge cases of every social rule. Right? Be not like some people, like, you ever see why certain people hate each other? Well, they know that when they say be nice, it doesn't mean they always remember the circumstances where you're not nice. And they always know, because God was there, they're always reminded of the circumstances in which they're actually not nice. And having both scenarios play in their head 24/7 makes people want to kill each other. Today, because no one believes in God, you don't get to any of those edge cases. You don't